small space gardening tips. So what should you do if you really do not have a lot of room to start gardening? Maybe you live in an apartment, maybe you have a really small plot of land that your home is on. Whatever the case, just because you don't have a lot of land doesn't mean you can't go gardening. You really just have to figure out how to maximize the space that you have. I'm going to start with probably one of the most common ways to garden within a small area, and that is to use trellises and plant plants that need trellises. So pole beans, for instance, even cucumbers can grow upwards, and tomatoes grow upwards. Things like that need to kind of latch onto these trellises. That's a great way to save space because it's just against a wall or against some sort of trellis in a space-saving area. And besides traditional trellises that, for vine plants, you can also create a trellis that's more like a shelf where, pots hang from these trellises. I've also seen a really nice idea of people using gutters, usually for your roof, but they repurpose these gutters to go along a wall, and they plant strawberries and peppers and flowers along these gutters. So it's basically a shelf of plants along their wall, which is really nice if you really don't have a lot of space, because of course they don't get in the way, they're just on the wall in their own space and you're good to go. Using raised beds is another really good tip because you don't need to dig into the soil for that. If the only thing you have is a patio, raised beds are perfect. You could just set them up across the patio where the sun can hit them, and you're pretty much good to go from there. I mean, you just need to make sure that those raised beds are filled with the right kind of soil, the weather is right, you're getting enough sun. Now, downside, sometimes you're really unlucky. Maybe if you're in an apartment, your patio's in a dark space that barely gets any sun. So you're kind of out of luck for a lot of plants that require more amounts of sun, but that doesn't mean that you can't grow low light plants. So keep that in mind if you're in a darker area. Now, another good tip is to try and plant your plants closer than you think they need to be. So one of my favorite gardening books is, I believe it's called Square Foot Gardening. And as the title suggests, it's all about using every square foot of your garden to the utmost advantage and utmost efficiency. So usually if you're growing from seeds, for example, or even seedlings, they'll have some instructions telling you the spacing and things like that. Usually it's a little bit over-exaggerated, the spacing that you need. The reason I like that book, Square Foot Gardening, is that it gives you these kind of diagrams of how many of each plant you can really fit within 1 square foot without any of the plants suffering. So for example, lettuce, you can plant quite a lot of lettuce within a single square foot. And then of course larger plants, 1 per square foot, like a cabbage, that's a pretty large plant, so 1 per square foot. So I'll put the book in the link in the description if you're interested, because it is a really, really useful book. It has some very nice diagrams and illustrations to really help you understand the maximum amount of plants you can plant in a small area. And it also has some really nice tips about raised garden beds and building your own soil and things like that. Then moving on, another really good space-saving tip is to, even though this isn't directly related to the space itself, is to plant fast-growing plants, because you don't have a lot of space, but you want more produce. So planting, of course, plants that mature very quickly and can be harvested very quickly, that allows you to cycle through different things that you want to plant. So you do get more out of a small space. So, for example, many types of lettuce grow very quickly. Sometimes it's a 60-day growing period. You can harvest them within 60 days. Some beets and certain root vegetables are similar to that. So just kind of go through different fast-growing plants and see which ones look good to you and which ones you can grow within your climate and things like that. You can also look into compact varieties of plants. As I said before, some plants like cabbages are very large, you know, the whole span of your arm sort of thing, and not everyone has that much space to deal with those big plants. So you could deal with, for instance, again, lettuce. Lettuce is such an easy thing to grow, and it's small, you know, a little bouquet of lettuce, I suppose. Doesn't take that much space at all. Certain berry bushes, you know, if you can manage with that acidic soil that they need, or certain tomato plants are pretty small. So it really depends again on what you can grow in your area, what season it is, and what you like to eat. So, but there are a lot of compact plant varieties, and even if you're not doing vegetables, maybe you're doing flowers or something else, you know, succulents. But yeah, there are plenty of pretty small plants, and they stay small for the most part. And the next kind of general tip is to think about the layout of your garden and try to keep it minimalist. I know a lot of people will try to put in all these, you know, knickknacks to maybe spruce up the appearance of the garden, or maybe to, you know, these extra tools. But if you don't have too much space, it's best to keep things minimalist, even if that means your garden is just a little bit boring than average. But the more minimalist it is, the more stuff you can start planting, if that is what's most important to you. And of course, make sure the layout is efficient. You know, you want to be able to walk into the garden and not have to just climb over a ton of stuff, because that's, not only is it frustrating and irritating, but it's also, you know, just inconvenient. Keep everything efficient, organized, easy to navigate, and you shouldn't have any trouble at all. So hopefully this video was helpful. If you have any questions, of course you can leave any questions down in the comment section below. And if you liked the video, leave a like, maybe subscribe, and I make a few videos throughout the week, so don't miss those.